Hello, my name is Michael Wuth. I'm one of the founders of AMS Consulting based here in the UK, and we cover off EMEA and APAC. And I come from Vendorland. I previously spent many years, actually close to a decade, in privileged access management vendors, having held a variety of roles within Vendorland. And I've since come out of Vendorland, and I'm here to help you, the customer, to make better use of your PAM solutions or help implement a PAM solution if you don't have one. AMS Consulting is a relatively new organization. We've been in existence for a couple of years now. And so we came together to help solve an industry problem. And that is when PAM solutions are typically deployed, they are deployed in a fashion where it's technology-led. Now, what we found that a lot of PAM implementations fail because they fail to understand the people, they fail to provide process. So we came about to help implement PAM projects successfully into these environments, but understanding the people and creating a process to support the technology. So that's our mission statement. And so far, we've been very successful in doing that and helping our customers on their PAM journeys. PAM stands for Privileged Access Management. Basically, if a person requires access to privileged systems, PAM would control that access. So let's use an analogy here. You have a castle, and within a castle, you have a vault room. To access that vault room or access the crown jewels, for example, is typically what you call privileged access. So if you're the vault keeper, to access the crown jewels, you would have a set of keys. In order to get that set of keys, you have to check out the keys, sign them out. You have to go towards the vault room and check with the guard, and they'll check your ID and check you are who you are. And then you're able to access the vault room, and they can be time limited. So that is what it's really about, controlling that access. So when it comes to systems, it's all about protecting sensitive systems. Keeps important data and systems safe from unauthorized access. Just like the castle analogy, it controls who can do what. So in that analogy, the who is the vault keeper, and what they could do is access it. So this applies across the whole estate. Also applies to key roles. So the vault keeper, you have someone who accesses armory, for example, in a castle. So going back to systems, it's typically your domain admins. People have privileges to access your Azure portal and to have administrative rights. So pretty much a role would be an administrative role, and that role would allow them access onto systems to make changes and change configuration. So I also want to add quickly, typically what a PAM solution looks like. So typically we are looking things like password vaulting. Think your Google password manager. That in essential is your vault. It saves your username and password. But think of this on an enterprise scale, a grand scale that allows you to vault all those credentials across your entire estate. And then we can add things like workflow approval. So, the whole approval, I would request access and it gets approved and so forth. And then on top, we have what you call session recording and auditing. Think your CCTV in your castle. It records everything that's happening, records the keystroke, records the session data. And it's great for auditing purposes. And in a lot of cases, when a lot more organizations are breached, it's great for forensics as well. So just want to cover key features of PAM really quickly. So things you're looking out for is password vaulting, multi-factor authentication. That's a massive thing. Verifying who you are. Temporary access, that just-in-time approval. You only get access to it when you request it, as long as it goes through approval. And it's just enough privileges. You have the key to that one single room. You have the credentials to that one single system and no more. And around that, as I mentioned again, activity monitoring and recording. So that covers off what PAM is. So we entered into partnership with IBM roughly a year ago, and we were relatively unknown. Actually, we were unknown at the time, and we've worked with IBM on quite a few significant projects, some of them involving some of the largest organizations on the planet. And that relationship we've built upon, we've built strong bonds with the team here in the UK and also EMEA as well. And we're going to be expanding that soon to APAC, as we do have presence in APAC, and we're signing on as a partner in APAC. So we're going to have pretty much an international coverage across EMEA and APAC. So we have proved ourselves to be one of the premier partners within the IBM Verify Privilege portfolio, and we're expanding that into the IBM Verify portfolio as a whole. And as some of you may know, HashiCorp is going to be a very, very important feature of that once it's integrated within the IBM Verify portfolio, and HashiCorp being a global standard in DevOps. This is important for IBM, and this is very, very important for us as well. So we work closely on large projects, small projects, and we are the default go-to for IBM sales folk and IBM across the sales team to engage customers from a partner perspective. So anatomy attack, it's all about a bad guy. So we'll call him a threat actor. So there's 3 stages: entry, getting in; settle in, sit there, watch what's going on; and then extract data, right? Or encrypt data in a lot of cases now. So there's 2 types of bad actors. There's the outsider threat actor and there's insider threat actor. So outsider threats often start by exploiting weak points. So they're guessing or stealing your passwords. Or they're sending a phishing email. They're tricking users into clicking a link. Or they're manipulating people via social media. And by these, they're trying to figure out what your credentials are. Your insider threats, these are people who typically work for an organization or a contractor within an organization, third-party vendors. Think about these things. So they're exploiting things such as legitimate access that they would have normal day-to-day. They also have intimate knowledge of internally what the systems look like. So they're aware of shared or weak credentials, shared username passwords that everyone has access to. It's very, very common. And they lack access reviews. So no one's reviewing who's accessing what, when, why, and where, and how. So they're exploiting upon that. And they're also exploiting trust, because within an organization, there's trust built within all the systems. So think about a computer that's domained. There already is a trust relationship between that computer and the domain controller. So everything within it is trusted. So they can exploit that. So that covers off actors. So what do they do once they get in? So they fan out. Once inside, they're finding and they're accessing sensitive systems. They're finding what your finance systems are, your HR systems, your databases that hold your customer information. You're finding them, they're accessing, they're probing it for weak points. Eventually, they manage to escalate privileges. So we're getting that administrative access into your SAP, your HR systems, your customer details. Once we can escalate and we can get access to it, we then control that. Then we start exfiltrating that data breach. Start pulling all that data, and we can expose it on the internet, or we can hold it as a ransom. So there's a variety of ways of doing that. So once they've done that, the breach is complete. So they've exfiltrated the data, they've encrypted your data, and you're held to ransom. Typically, organizations are asked to pay millions, maybe billions, to get the keys to unencrypt their data. But they're very, very smart too. They've erased all the logs, they've covered all their tracks. So it's a guessing game forensically of who done it, because it's very, very difficult to track back to the exact individual that done it. So that is anatomy of attack in a nutshell. Of course, 2 recent breaches that I'm sure has affected everyone in one way or another we'll cover off is in the retail industry. It's Marks & Spencer's and Co-op. So let's go through Marks & Spencer first. It happened in Easter this year. And they used social engineering. According to news reports, they managed to talk to the third-party vendor, went through the help desk, reset a password, and was able to log in. So afterwards, they sat, they watched, they gained privilege, just like the anatomy attack. They moved throughout the network until they managed to download the ntds.dit file. What is ntds.dit file? It is that phone book directory that sits within your organization on your domain controller, and that phone book typically contains all the username and all the passwords of every single person within your organization that's within there. Took it offline, exfiltrated the data, and they sat and cracked it, and eventually had the passwords to everything. And then they've deployed ransomware on the estate. And once the ransomware went off and encrypted all the systems. So what was the knock-on effect of this? It disrupted logistics. Shelves were empty. Orders were not fulfilled. Payments were not able to be made. Orders were cancelled. Stolen data. This is massive. Customers' personally identifiable information, purchase history, credit card details, all these were exfiltrated. And these are sold in the dark web, typically for identity fraud purposes. So what was the end result? Estimated to be £300 million loss in profit. That's a £1.3 million a day online sales loss as well. And its shares took a £700 million pummeling in market drop. Massively significant. And let's not even account for the reputational damage that Marks and Spencer's went through. To end all, they reckon it was a group called the Scattered Spider, a bunch of people between 17 and 21-year-old that went and done this. Supposedly they've been caught. Whether they'll ever be brought to justice, who knows? Are they right people? We don't know. But it just goes to show it's young people sitting there and they can do the most damage. So let's move on to the co-op breach. Yet again, they suffered an attack through this group of young people. They're the Scattered Spider or Dragon Force as they're known as. So yet again, social engineering is thought to be used to gain access to the credentials, having a same story throughout. 6.5 million customer records are stolen. That is the entire member base of a co-op. Every single person who registers as a customer has had their data exfiltrated. There was no financial impact. What co-op done was very, very smart. They pulled the plug. They yanked the plug, disconnected from everything from the internet before any more damage could be done. So the financial impact was significant. They reckon between 270 million and 440 million. They will never discuss these. These are it's very sensitive information. And they saw an 11% drop in customer spending. Now, if you think about it, in your remote communities in the United Kingdom, shelves were empty. People were left to eat beans or whatever they can find in a cupboard because Co-op didn't have any stock. The Highlands of Scotland, in your islands, people literally had nothing. That's how much of an impact it had. Impacted people on a personal scale. Yeah. So what was another fact is Co-op lacks cyber insurance. We'll touch upon that later on as well. Marks and Spencer's did have cyber insurance, so some of losses were mitigated by that. So that comes under how risk mitigation. But that covers off the Co-op breach. What lessons? That's a very, very good question. So we have to understand what's going on when it comes to identity. It's all about visibility. You can't protect what you can't see. And if you're seeing things happen, you have to see what that person's doing. There's no point giving the keys to the castle to the chef that's walking into the castle and he has access to every single room. Okay, we need to start putting in controls and controlling the what, how, why, when, and where of people. So restrict access to critical assets. So we're going back to ensure only authorized users can reach the sensitive systems and data within your organization. Mitigate insider threats. Let's monitor and control privileged activity to prevent misuse. Enable that comprehensive auditing and logging. Switching on your CCTV, recording things that's going on. So capture details, logs of privileged access, privileged sessions. What are they doing within that privileged session? What are they configuring within that system? Your high-level credentials, such as your administrative access, let's secure them, let's vault them, let's rotate them. Typically, a lot of compliance standards require it to be rotated. So you've got constantly moving about a target of what the password will be. Let's make it very, very long. Let's make it 32 characters. Let's add in special symbols. Makes it all the more difficult for would-be attackers to try and crack it. And implement temporary access controls. People could only do what they need for a certain amount of time with enough privileges, and afterwards, well, you need to leave. And these are the key things on how to minimize that risk. PAM solutions, the best practice is all about people and all about process. It's not about the technology side. It's understanding what's going on. You can't protect, as I said, what you don't know exists. So make sure you have clear visibility into who has access to what. It's all about that visibility piece, right? Seeing things, protecting what you can see. And if you're seeing things coming in and out, and you're constantly adding identities when your organizations, when you're adding third-party vendors, you want to see them coming on. So it's all about visibility. That's absolutely key. Understanding people's roles. Learn how different team members use special access so you can manage it wisely. Your average user sitting at a laptop does not need administrative credentials onto the domain, for example. They don't need to be configuring routers, switches, or so. Keep it simple and consistent, right? Use easy to follow processes that can be repeatable, shared across the organization. It's simple to pick up, simple to learn, and make sure it's well documented throughout your whole organization so people can access and pick up themselves. Don't make things complex. People don't want complexity. They just end up trying to bypass the process you're putting in if you introduce that complexity. Make sure training's up to date. Train people on how to use the tool. Train people on the processes. Make sure it's well understood. Make sure you tell them why it's in place and why you don't want to be bypassing it. Yeah? So follow the rules. Set up your tools and processes to meet legal and industry standards. Practice ISO 27001. Set it up so it's compliant towards PCI DSS or any other one of these compliance frameworks are out there. So those are pretty much a high-level overview of best practices for PAM implementation. So we have a variety of clients we've worked with in the past and we're currently working with as well. And what we do is we approach it from trying to understand the business. Why does the business want PAM? Is it for compliance reasons? Are they trying to increase their security posture? Is it because as a result of a breach? So each of these use cases, there's different outcomes for them. So typically we're looking at what they currently have and what they want to get to. And we'll look at what the PAM maturity model looks like and we'll follow the PAM maturity model. And then we'll start looking at what PAM controls they want to implement as a priority. And afterwards, we'll be workshopping and we'll be going through the processes that need to be in place to help support that requirement. And off the back of it comes the technology, demo technology, showing that it proves, going through a proof of concept and making sure that fits in within the people and process piece. So once we've done that, we'll go on to a training piece. We'll go through a pilot. There's a training piece for the pilot users, make sure they're all happy, we're all meeting all the requirements, and people find it easy to use. Now, you hear me say this lots. Easy to use, simple. Keep it simple, keep it easy. These are the successful implementations. Is keeping it easy and simple. I can't say this enough. Once we've went through pilot, we can deploy it into the larger organization. But because we've done a pilot, we understand the processes, we've documented everything, we've created the training, we understand what the hiccups are. We look towards quite a successful implementation, which will capture 80% of the audience and the use cases, because we follow the 80-20 rule, and the 20% will take on a case-by-case basis. So yes, that typically is what a successful implementation looks like. And yet again, simple, easy, remove complexity, keep it consistent, recyclable, reusable processes. And that is the recipe for a successful PAM implementation. We've had a lot of success within the banking sector and also with the pharma, highly regulated sectors. We've had a lot of successes, but we also cover all other verticals. One of our larger customers is actually a charity as well. So they hold a lot of PII, personal identifiable information. So they have quite strict compliance around that. So we've helped them out for quite a while. But across all industries and all verticals, because PAM needs to be there in all industries and verticals due to a number of compliance reasons. Just want to touch upon compliance. I think it's very, very important to mention this. Right. PAM controls, they're there once you put them in, and helps align your organization with GDPR, ISO 27001, PCI DSS. Also helps align to cybersecurity insurance. A prerequisite, I had a customer phone me up once and they said, we need PAM. It's like, okay. Why do you need PAM? Because cybersecurity insurance says we need PAM. So, okay, right. So what does it say? What is a line in cybersecurity? It says prerequisites, PAM controls. That was it. Nothing else, just PAM controls. Like, how are you meant to know what PAM controls you have in place? So in today's day and age, cybersecurity insurance is pretty much essential. Marks and Spencer had it. They had a couple $100 million covered off by them. Co-op didn't. They had to shoulder that cost themselves. Absolutely critical. So we help the customer unpick what PAM control means. Let's get to the bottom of it. We'll start off with the PAM maturity model to show we have some sort of controls in place. So we're starting to tick the boxes. But more importantly than tick the boxes, we're starting to show people how to use it, the tool properly. There's no point in saying I have a hammer, but I don't know how to use it. You need to use it properly. So around that whole PAM compliance is absolutely critical for it. And when it comes to auditing, when you're getting audited, a lot of these PAM tools, they could create an auditing report to say, these are PAM controls that's applied to X, Y, and Z. It makes that experience so much more simpler, keeps the auditor happy as well. And you clearly want to tick those boxes. So yes, that's the final piece I want to mention, the compliance piece, which is very, very important to so many organizations out there. So off the back of everything and what we've discussed today, I think it's very, very important that there is a next step for you, the customer, or you're facing your PAM challenges. What do you do to address these? You've identified you have challenges and issue. What's the next step? So what we're offering is we're offering a free workshop that lasts between 1 and 2 hours with IMS or IBM, but quite often we do it together. And we assess your current PAM controls. And what you'll receive off of that is a set of tailored recommendations of what your next step should be. Look at it as a mini health assessment slash gap analysis. So these workshops, as I said, typically delivered by IBM and or IBM experts. And to book, very, very simply, go to www.ams-consulting.com and get a session booked by clicking contact us. And those workshops are delivered free to you. You can contact us directly on LinkedIn by looking at AMS Consulting on LinkedIn. Alternatively, you can get in touch with your IBM account manager and they'll be able to point you in the right direction.